in a cesspool. And we can swim in the contents of that cesspool, or we can sink. If someone wants to ask me to sink because I find myself in a cesspool, I can only say I think that's an unreasonable request. I'm going to try to stay afloat in this world. I don't like the shape it's been put in, but I didn't put it in this shape. I didn't take anything from Native Americans. So I don't know that there's a particular Native American person to whom I've committed an injustice. This is a tricky issue. If you go back in history, you find that everybody's ancestors were abused and subjected to robbery and violence at some point. Does that mean that we're all in the debt of everybody, everywhere? This is a very easy and cheap way of thinking about the course of history, and it doesn't really work. When we wrong someone, there's the possibility of restitution. But there's no possibility for me to make restitution for the people who were slain at Wounded Knee by the U.S. Army. I can't give them their lives back. But at the same time, we need to recognize that I didn't take their lives either. I'm not responsible for what generations before me did, and they did a great deal of wrong. But right now, the generation that I'm a part of is doing a great deal of wrong. And for that, I can raise my voice. I can denounce injustice. I can try to move the world in a better direction. I can't take responsibility for every historical wrong ever done.
Robert Higgs is our in-depth guest this month, Phoenix, Arizona. Good afternoon. Phoenix.
Hello, Robert Higgs. Thank you very much for the education. First time I've heard you. I hear a lot of callers here asking the government to take care of them. This country was founded on individual liberty and the right to go out and earn a lot of money and have freedom. We're losing that freedom on a daily basis. There is a congressman called Ron Paul who is a Republican, and he has a campaign for liberty trying to promote your ideals. He is trying to audit the Federal Reserve, which has a grip on our economy. It seems they don't want to answer where the $700 billion went, or they have an unlimited checkbook to do whatever they want, and they're taxing us for it. If you'd like to join the Campaign for Liberty, please go to campaignforliberty.com and help Congressman Ron Paul pass a new bill he just wrote called H.R. 1207. And if you do know of Ron Paul, can you please comment on him and his ideals? Thank you.
I know Dr. Paul, and I certainly share many of the ideals that he promotes. So I'm happy to say a kind word in Dr. Paul's favor. I think he's attempting to move the country in the right direction, and I wish him every success in doing so.
And if you'd like to get in touch with our guest, Robert Higgs, you can go to the website independentinstitute.org. It's a .org, correct?
Yes.
And Larry Sasser emails in, you focus on government taking our freedoms. I believe our founders did a pretty good job of protecting us from government. We do have the ability to get rid of bad actors in the government. Not a perfect system, but that will come when people become perfect. Our founders did not know about corporations and did not foresee their potential power, so did not protect us from them. Corporations now have the most benefits of citizenship without most of the constraints. I fear corporate control of my life far more than government control.
Well, that's an interesting point of view, and it's certainly one that many people have. I think it's misguided. To my recollection, no corporation forces anyone to buy its product. Walmart does not hold a gun to my head when I go in to patronize the store. If I chose to stop patronizing Walmart, I'd simply walk away from the store, and that would be the end of the story. Likewise with other corporations. The corporations have only as much power as they wield through government. Corporations didn't run the Holocaust. Corporations weren't running Pol Pot's regime. Corporations were not running Stalinist Russia. Governments were running these abominable places. And when we see great crimes being committed, we're seeing the work of government in every instance. Private individuals don't have the means to mount huge massacres. Corporations don't have the means or the power to carry out these great crimes. Only governments have the means, and often, sad to say, they have the incentive to carry out great crimes. So the idea that you're more afraid of a corporation or of corporations as a group than you are of government, I think just simply does not comport with the way corporations and governments have behaved in the past. We're talking about the organized control of violence when we talk about government. When we talk about corporations, we're talking about firms that will last only so long as people choose to do business with them. Unless, of course, the government uses its coercive power to come along and bail them out when private individuals no longer want to support them, as the government is now doing for many of these big financial institutions. So we need to draw a distinction between where the real danger lies because of the control of violent force in governments and where relatively limited danger lies because we have competition, because we have somewhere else to go, because we're not at the mercy of a corporation or of corporations as a group. Now, having said that, I certainly believe it's quite obvious that many corporations have extremely large amounts of clout with the government. I was talking a while ago about the revolving door, about the way individuals go in and out of government service. It's most notorious with the Department of Defense, but it happens across the board in government, and this is simply a way of demonstrating that in a government that's got a lot of power, particularly regulatory power or large spending power, it's going to attract interest groups, firms that hope to benefit from some form of government privilege. But it's the government privilege that attracts them. If government were smaller, if it didn't exercise these functions, there would be no attraction there and people would have to compete in an open market. So I simply think it's a big mistake for people to fear the corporations as such. They're not dangerous. What's dangerous is the corporation allied with and making use of government's coercive force.
Ithaca, New York.
Yes, Professor Higgs, I have a comment followed by a question about the economy. First of all, there are many people who work for little more than minimum wage their entire lives. Today, there are many households where both parents have to work just to make ends meet. It's never been an equal playing field out there. So I am in favor of the government helping people with Social Security and other programs. Now, my question, General Eisenhower warned about the military-industrial complex becoming too powerful. How much of our economy is dependent on the success of the military-industrial complex? And do you see an inherent danger in this dependency?
Thank you, caller.
A substantial part of our economy is tied to the military-industrial complex. I usually call it the military-industrial congressional complex to indicate the essential role that Congress has come to play in this arrangement or this set of institutions that we refer to with that name. The MIC, this military-industrial congressional complex, emerged in its current form from World War II. It really got many of its powers and its forms actually before the United States entered the war as a declared belligerent. But certainly during World War II, the military complex became enormous. And then after World War II, it was never cut back to its pre-war dimensions. And particularly from the time of the Korean War onward, it's been a major drain. I did a study some years ago that found that between 1948 and 1989, when the Cold War ended, a period there of more than 4 decades, that on the average, the military was receiving about